Today is March 31st. It's the Transgender Day of Visibility. And to anyone out there struggling with questions of how to approach someone in their life, what name to use, how pronouns work, how many possible combinations of XY chromosomes there may be, mathematically, scientifically, I want to reassure you that anytime you approach another human being with kindness, dignity, and respect, you in no way diminish your own holiness. You only expand your humanity. When I was a little kid, there was a movie about a dragon that nobody could see. And there was a song that went along with this story about how everybody just wants to be recognized. Everybody wants to be seen. And I would challenge anyone listening to this message today to be someone who truly sees others, who recognizes in them so much more than the structure of their bones and muscle and skin. And if you're thinking that somehow being created in the image of a divine God has anything to do with how dangly an appendage is, you have so sadly missed the point. Which brings us to the dedication of my latest novel, The Gardener's Wife's Mistress. I wrote this book first for Buttercup and Wolf Cub, and secondly, for everyone whose soul is greater than the sum of their parts. And that's you. I'll read just a little short excerpt today. Hayden and Shelley hadn't wanted children of their own, and that wasn't a decision he had ever regretted. Jackie and Lauren were trying, and his brother desperately wanted to be a father. Maybe Lauren thought he could undo everything their father had done to them. Or maybe he just loved kids. He was a teacher, after all. Hayden knew the paternal urge gene had skipped him entirely. Nothing about the current state of the world, ecologically or politically, screamed, "Let's make more of us," as far as Hayden was concerned. Still, as he watched Mateo sleeping in the passenger seat, something stirred in him, something protective and perturbed. How were this child's parents willing to let him starve, freeze, or simply disappear because he wouldn't fit into the shape they intended? They didn't understand why Mateo was the way he was. Did they have to? Human beings understood perilously little of the world in which they lived. Rejecting everything confusing would immobilize humanity with ignorance. Hayden supposed humanity was mostly incapable of growth, yet still unwilling to wither away. Like a larger plant, robbing seedlings of sunlight, sucking down nutrients, stubbornly keeping their buds furled. All his life, Hayden had heard people justify their treatment of people on the street by insisting the homeless had already given up on themselves. They won't help themselves, they won't take their meds, they won't get a job, they won't try. Hayden didn't know how people could be so sure they understood someone else's reality. Hayden didn't think Mateo and Sage and Valkyrie had given up on themselves. It looked to him like the opposite were true. They were fighting for themselves, fighting for their identity, something most people never had to contemplate. They had to fight to get their meds and to be allowed to take them. They were kicked off teams and turned away from job interviews. And at night, they had no safe place to sleep. No family to tell them tomorrow would be brighter, to hold on and things would get better. No one to love them, no matter what. Hayden felt ashamed for thinking Melody was lucky her parents supported her and kept her from a similar fate, when that should be the bare minimum any child could expect from parents. He knew firsthand, though, how flawed parents were. Procreating didn't automatically make a person compassionate. He watched Mateo limp across the alley to the back door, his new t-shirt tucked under an arm. The boy pulled a key out of his jeans and disappeared inside. Without a doubt, he'd remember to lock the door behind him. As Hayden navigated the dark streets home, his hands shook and tears filled his eyes. He didn't know who he was crying for. A brutalized child alone in the world, a dead woman who'd left a trail of lies behind her, or the man who stood outside them both. See someone today.